Hey there, welcome to Here's What I Learned. I'm Jackie Hayes, a systems strategist, unapologetic, smutty romantasy lover, Dungeons and Dragons geek, and your no BS guide to building a business that works for you. This is the place where we swap stories, share lessons, and get real about the highs and lows of creating a life and business that actually feels good. No cookie cutter advice here, just honest conversations about what's working, what's not, and how to rewrite the rules to fit your version of success. So grab your favorite beverage, get comfy, and let's dive in. Welcome to another episode of Here's What I Learned. Today I have Chelsey Newmyer, who is a certified behavior change specialist, productivity expert, business coach, and the host of From Overwhelmed to Under Control podcast, which I had the pleasure of being on. She helps ambitious moms turn their 9-to-5 skills into thriving businesses without overwhelm. Welcome to being on the show today, Chelsey. How are you doing?
Wonderful. Thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited about this conversation.
I would love to know, what is something you've been learning about lately?
Yeah, so it's a big question because I'm always learning and I'm such a nerd about all things. So I right now have been doing a deep dive into actually a lot of personal development stuff in terms of how I am thinking about my own relationship with achievement and success. And so doing some work in redefining success and productivity for myself and finding more joy in the day to day because I, for so long, pushed so hard to achieve the kind of traditional definition of success. And so that's really what I've been learning more about, reading more about, and having a lot of fun doing.
So far, how would you say you would now define success from what you've been learning?
I'm still working on my own definition of it for sure, but I think the direction it's going is it's finding more joy in those small moments. It's not seeking the next rung in the ladder without intention, right? It's just being more intentional with my time. It's being more thoughtful about who and what I'm surrounding myself with as well. So success doesn't need to mean a ton of money. It can be the connections that you're making. It could be time hanging out with my son and not have feeling like I need to be on my phone, right? It's all just those smaller moments that can be kind of second fiddle to a lot of the other things that people focus on.
I like how you mentioned the next rung with intention, because there's not necessarily anything wrong with wanting to
Oh
achieve the
no.
next rung, but are you doing it just because you think that's what you're supposed to be doing, or is it because you actually want it and you're doing it with intention? I think that's a really good differentiator on that topic.
Yeah. So I work a 9 to 5 still as a consultant, and I had my first kind of face of reality with what I'm learning about because promotions were recently announced and my name wasn't on the list. And past Chelsea, that would have devastated me. That would have been, I've been at the company longer than some of the people who got promoted. I know I do good work. I would have just been in a spiral about why I hadn't been given a promotion. But then I thought about it and was like, I actively told my manager I don't want more responsibility.
Oops. Well, there you
I
go.
actively have been not volunteering to do more because I don't want to burn out on my 9 to 5 job when I would rather spend time with my family. I would rather spend time on my own business. I would rather spend time taking care of myself than doing more work. So it was this like really great but kind of brutal reality of, yeah, that's what that means. It means I didn't get the promotion, and that's okay. I'm okay with it. But it definitely took me a second there because, like I said, that would have sent me into a spiral probably a year or two ago.
Yeah. And just think though, had you gotten the promotion, what that would have meant for you. It wouldn't have meant being able to probably do all these things that you're now finding in the joy of the every day that you're making space for.
Absolutely. Yeah, it would have been more meetings, more time, more work, and not on work that I enjoy doing as much.
So I ask all my clients at the beginning of the podcast to tell me what it means to them to do business your way. What does it mean to you?
I've also been going through a whole rebrand, so it's actually funny hearing you read my bio because I probably sent that to you a month ago and it's actually different now even. So, which I think is so common, right? And for me, doing business my way, I get to change it. I get to find that redirection. I get to talk to a different group of people or to lean in on something that I'm passionate about and learning about and excited about teaching others. When I started my business, I was so self-conscious of, oh my God, I can't change my mind. Like, what are people going to think about it? I'm going to look flaky. I'm not going to, it's all those kind of self-conscious thoughts we have swirling in our minds. But it's my business. I get to make those changes. So doing business my way is getting leading into and exploring things that I love to talk about, getting to change my mind, updating offers, and always with the goal of helping others, serving others, and helping those people who are even just a step or two behind me who haven't gotten to where I am. I don't have to have it all figured out.
No. Well, and I think we do tend to beat ourselves up when we start our business of like, this is what I'm doing. And that doesn't give us room to evolve, to learn like what it is. We think we know what we want to do, but then as we get in the weeds, we're like, oh no, this is more my strength, or these are the people I really want to work with. And so if we don't let ourselves change, we're not going to enjoy our businesses. But we also don't think about the fact that people are changing jobs, like promotions or
Mhm.
companies, like every 2.5 years now. And nobody's really blinking an eye on that. So why is it any different for you to change your business on a regular basis?
That's a really good point. And I think we have to remember that we're learning too, right? Especially if you're changing your niche or your target audience. You may have explored that a little bit and really you didn't like it, or it wasn't the right fit, or you got burned a few times. And so we have to, for me, it was this realization. I've been in business for almost 4.5 years, or it'll be 5 years in June. And I was like, I have grown and changed so much since 5 years ago. It would be doing a disservice to my business to not carry all of those things that I've learned and pour it into this new version. And it also comes back to what my definition of success is. I mean, obviously we're in business, we have to make money. Like that's the goal. My mom always asks me how my business is going, and I know that she's coming at it from a perspective of how much money have you made? And for a while that made me really self-conscious because it's hard to make money. It takes time. It's you're evolving, things are more complicated. And now that's not how I define the success of my business. I've made some incredible connections. I've met and helped a ton of people. I've learned a ton and grown a ton. So even how we're working that into our personalized business is so, so important.
Yeah, I'm visiting my parents this weekend, and I'm dreading that question is how is business going? Because right now it's in a slow period, and it's I can't give them
Mhm.
the oh I'm rolling in the dough, it's great. But yeah, if I could, I thank you for that because I'm going to reframe it with, oh, I've made a lot of new connections lately and I've got some collaborations in the works. It doesn't have to always be about the money. Yes, I want to make a profit, but like you said, that's not all the measures. But I do like that still have your 9 to 5 job, and whether or not you
Mhm.
keep that or not, something that I had just had a realization on listening to another podcast recently where they were talking about being in relationship with your business and how it can get kind of codependent if you place everything on your business. And it was a realization for me that, yeah, it was fine that I have my part-time job. It didn't mean I wasn't still 100% committed to my business. You can be 100% long-term committed to your business and have other work outside of that. In fact, in some cases, and with the economy we have, it might be a good idea to have other streams of
Yeah.
income. How do you balance the 9 to 5 and running your business?
So I'm really blessed that my 9 to 5 is remote and it's pretty flexible. I have contract where I'm a consultant. So some months it's busier than others. February is pretty low key. March has been bananas so far. So my business with that ebbs and flows, right? February I was able to get more content out. I was able to get ahead a little bit on things. So I think for me, it's being okay with that flux. I want to, in an ideal world, I would be super consistent with everything and everything would get done in this grand vision. But sometimes I got to play it by ear and see what comes up and work in those kind of small moments. Also, luckily, a night owl, so I really don't mind jumping on after my son goes to bed or after dinner and working for a couple hours before bed. And my husband and I have, he's incredibly supportive, so we've come up with a good routine of what nights I can come back on. But more than anything, I would say I've just streamlined. I just know where I can and can't show up, right? I'm not adding more platforms to my plate that I can't handle. I'm trying to be really, but podcast is a great way to lean in because it's a great way to attract people. It's a great way to get my voice out there. I really want to show up on stories every day, but I'm terrible about remembering to even take photos. It's just, I have to be okay with the level that I can give it, but I'm always showing up for my clients. Those are the most important. I'm always showing up for myself in terms of the coaching that I receive personally. And then I really lean into the things that I enjoy doing that I know are going to have some return on investment.
So, talking about streamlining, you're known for productivity.
Mhm.
Is that still, you said that you're kind of changing things a little, evolving. Is that still going to be a focus for your work, or are you going to be evolving away from that?
So not away from it, but thinking about it in a different way because I realized that a lot of the women that I was were working with were coming to me and saying, I can't handle it all. I'm feeling really overwhelmed. Help me make it all happen. And it kind of dawned on me like time management is not going to fix that problem. You have to, there has to be kind of less on your plate. And how do we help you decide what's really a priority, what's really important to you? What can you say no to? What can be delegated? All those kind of pieces of it. So the focus now is going to be helping these kind of recovering overachievers who have defined success by doing the most and put their value in output, put their value in being productive, and helping them redefine productivity for themselves, redefine success for themselves so that they're able to just enjoy the time that they have a little bit more. So we'll absolutely still talk about scheduling. We're still going to talk about why they're procrastinating. We're still going to talk about all those pieces, but it's just a different umbrella because my goal is not to help them do more. It's to kind of how to do less,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah, I think my experience and others that I've heard from, whenever we pick up 10 management books or productivity books or these advice books, one, they're always written by a white guy
Oh
who
my gosh,
probably
always.
has somebody at home and maybe a nanny and maybe a housekeeper and all those other things. And then you hear the things Beyonce has the same 24 hours, all
Eat
of
it.
those
Yep.
things. And it's not the reality of life. It's like asking somebody to do their budget and saying, well, you're doing it wrong, but they don't have enough money to cover everything. There's not enough to cover all the things. You can't fault them for that. There's only so much you can give and not just output, but like to make sure that you're not going to burn out. And some of that needs some white space for you.
Yeah. What actually was the final prompt to start my business was reading a book written by a man who talked about taking a nap in the middle of the day to recharge and having his support person like prepare all the notes for all of the meetings that he was in and like reading them in the car on the way home. And it like blew my mind. I was like, okay, so who's gonna call my boss and tell her? Because at the time I was going into an office. Like, who's gonna call my boss and tell her that I need a couch in my office because I'm just gonna take a cool nap at the afternoon? Like, it was so just delusional about the reality of life. And I didn't have a kid at that point. Like, I just was a normal person living a normal life. And I totally agree that was kind of what spawned or sparked the whole movement of productivity is personal because between that and the fact that I tried to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning to work out for years and it always failed miserably, that's what I was like, there's got to be a different way to do this. There's got to be a more personal approach and making sure that we're taking the time to learn what works best for you, what makes sense for you and for your life. And I try really, really hard with all of my clients to really meet them where they are and recognize that there are things that you can't say no to. That would be really, that are the time and energy sucks, and you have to get through it. And there's going to be those seasons. And so, again, meeting my clients where they are, and then, it's not always as easy as just saying, oh, just don't do that anymore. And I recognize that fully.
Yeah, we often get the message as women that we can have it all, but they fail to say you also have to do it all. And I remember the days when I was working 9 to 5 and getting up to get to the 5 o'clock workout. And by the time I finished, like I would be sitting on the kitchen floor sobbing, making dinner because I was so tired by the time I got there. And it was like, I still have to take care of my kid and make sure he gets to bed and he gets his bath and still got to make sure that the house gets picked up. And it was just like, how am I supposed to do this day in and day out? Is this really what I want my life to look like? Which was no, not at all.
Right. Right. Yeah, absolutely.
So, how do you help your clients find out what productivity means to them? How do you personalize that for them?
Sure. So we start with values. I'll give a great example. I'll start with, so my definition of productivity is working on the right thing at the right time to help you reach your goals. So what I mean by that is the right thing is the specific task that is broken down a really specific task. And again, goal aligning, which we'll get to, but the right thing is that specific task. The right time is within your day, when are you going to be able to focus on that task the best? Are we doing a high focus, labor intensive task when you are drained and exhausted, and doing easy tasks when you're able to focus, right? Like, how are we looking at your day? What's your responsibilities? Where's your energy at? And that help you make progress towards your goal is making sure we know what we're working towards, right? Like there has to be a goal, or specifically for business or even your work, you're just doing busy work and you're just going to continue to add that busy work onto your plate. So we come back to what are your values? What are your priorities? Which is hard, right? That's hard work, and it's easy to just kind of spew off the things that we're supposed to say. So I really challenge my clients to get specific with their values and with their priorities, and then can kind of work backwards from there. And it's, again, there's no judgment, there's no shade. Your definition of productivity could be whatever you want it to be. If that is to rule the world or talk to 100 people a day, I maybe wouldn't advise it, but I'm gonna help you reach that goal. So I just want my people to be intentional with that, right? And it's making sure that they have some goals, they have an objective that they're working towards, that they understand that every yes is a no somewhere along the way. So, are we making the right choices? And are we taking care of ourselves along the way so that you're not going to reach that point of burnout and exhaustion and feel like you've been working so hard and have nothing to show for it? Because that's just a crappy place to be.
Yeah. I know for myself that it can be very easy to think that the things I'm doing for my business are essential, like absolutely everything, all of it needs to be done. And in reality, probably not. Probably
Mhm.
not. In reality, no. That's not the case. Like there is things in there that it's hard to determine whether or not they're busy work, I think, for some folks, including myself. And I mean, if I sat down and really thought of it, I could probably figure it out. But that's where people like yourself are very helpful because as an outside person, you have an objectivity that we may not have in our business. And we're very attached to all the things, and you got to do all the things you got to be on all the channels. You got to post every day, all the things that they tell us we have to do. And I just today found myself doing busy work. I had a spare moment and I could have been doing, who knows, something a whole lot more productive than Canva. So, which I think Canva tends to be the busy work that a lot of us get into. So,
It's deceiving because you feel like you're making it's that so okay, one of the reasons that can procrastinate is I call it productive procrastination. It feels good. It feels like you're doing something. And so I can't fault you for that, but yeah, it's often hard to discern sometimes. And that is just a third party that's just, and it's also taking a look at some of the different pieces of your business. So I know that like websites can be a time suck or updating those things. I looked at my traffic on my website. Most people just click the sales page. They don't actually read my whole sales website. I have very low website views. Like, so maybe I'll just spend more time on the sales page, right? Like, so it's sometimes it's just taking a step back and looking at the resources and information that you have to make a good decision.
you said you talk with your clients about procrastination. And I know we
Mm.
all, like, one of the fun phrases I once heard was procrasti-branding, where people wouldn't get their business started until their brand was just right, type of a thing. And obviously, a lot of times procrastination has something to do with fear, but there's all kinds of other reasons. What are some of the most common reasons your clients have for it?
Ah, Jackie, this is my favorite topic to talk about, and I'll go it really fast. Just again, I have a whole episode on the podcast about this too. But I always talk about 6 reasons. The first reason is that you don't understand the bigger goal, right? So I use the example of I want to start a podcast. That's a big goal, great goal. But there's a lot of decisions that come with that. And so it's kind of like that branding piece, right? Like, so if you don't have that kind of clear objective, it's harder to get started. All procrastination is friction to get started. It's not laziness. It's nothing. It's not a testament to who you are as a person. It's just a friction. So we have abstract goal. We have perfectionism, which is wanting to make sure that everything is perfect before it goes forward. We have fear of failure, which is understandable, especially as someone who's putting themselves out into the world quite often, right? You can look a little silly or fear of looking silly doing it. There's wanting or waiting for a deadline, which is something that I think so many people deal with. And this isn't even a bad one. I actually kind of love this one. Everybody's threshold for the stress they feel on an approaching deadline is different. I used to tutor high school students. No one has a higher threshold for a deadline than like a teenage boy, right? Like they don't feel pressure until 2 hours before that project's due. Everybody's different with that. Sometimes we need that pressure. The challenge with that comes when, the internet goes out, the computer crashes, right? And when there's some kind of emergency that means we didn't allow for the time that we had. And then there's, oh my gosh, I usually have these all memorized. Or maybe it's just those. Those just work with those. So all I want my clients to do is when they feel like they're procrastinating, when they feel like they notice that they're doing it, is just stop and ask themselves why. Like, where is that friction coming from? Is my goal too ambiguous right now and I need to make it into a smaller step? Is this something that I need to just take messy and scary action on and see what happens? Is this somewhere I need to create some artificial deadlines along the way to keep myself accountable? Or do I need an accountability partner, like a coach or a fellow business owner or a friend who can check in on the progress? Lots of different ways we can manage it, but knowing why you're procrastinating is going to help so much in the long run.
Yeah, I know I have set a project for myself right now that I have been procrastinating on for a very, very long time. But I joined Becky Mullenkamp is kind of got a group of people together to do the 100 rejections challenge. And so I kind of joined in on that because it has a lot to do with putting myself out there, which is scary to do. And so it's like, okay, well, let's just look at it as this is part of my challenge of getting 100 rejections. So yeah, but it's 100% fear. So then I get in Canva, so or I work on my sales page again.
Yeah, so for that, it's right. Like that's a great example because that 100 is a lot, right? It's like, where could you break it down? What's the first step you need to do? The reason that so many of us, I call it like productive procrastination, like doing the dishes, for example, right? Like I always joked that when I was studying for finals in college, my apartment was spotless because I would do anything to avoid studying. The reason that we tend to do those kinds of tasks as we're procrastinating is because they have a really clear start and a really clear end. So we know exactly how to get started. You see a sink full of dishes. We know how to do the task of washing a dish, and we know when it's completed because the sink is empty. Try to set your to-do list up that way every single day. The tasks on your to-do list should be super specific. I mean, mine today is like call so-and-so. Like that is I even include the number. Like I put her number right there so I know exactly who to call and when to call them. Again, you want all of your tasks to be that straightforward and simple for you.
One of the other questions I always ask my guest is, Chelsey, what would you say to Chelsey from 4.5, 5 years ago when she was just starting her business? What advice would you give her?
Get coaching sooner, I would say. Find that accountability person to just gut check you a little bit when you are doing that busy work because it's overwhelming to get started. There's just a lot of pieces, and they're all fun, right? Like we all go into it with so much energy and enthusiasm, and then we have like that shiny object syndrome. So get coaching sooner, just to find that person to kind of keep you accountable and do those gut checks for yourself. That would probably be my first piece of advice. And then give yourself permission to figure it out along the way. Like this rebrand, this work that I'm doing right now, I am kind of forcing myself to show up, even though I don't exactly know how it's going to look like at the end. And it's really uncomfortable. But I've learned that I sometimes have to just do the uncomfortable stuff until it gets comfortable.
That's like all of business. Like that's all of
All
running
of
a
this.
business.
That is literally it. Yes. And I just learned it 4.5 years in. So
Chelsey, where can the audience find you?
Sure. So I'm on Instagram at Chelsey N Coaching, and that's Chelsey with a Y. My website is chelseynewmyer.com. And then, of course, my podcast, which is From Overwhelmed to Under Control, which, of course, may be rebranded within the next few months. So just be on the lookout for all the new things coming from my business.
Excellent. And I will definitely make sure I link to that, all of that in the show notes. Definitely go take a listen to her podcast. And I will make sure I definitely link directly to the procrastination episode so people can find that as well. So,
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Thank you so much, Jackie. It was a lot of fun.
Thanks for hanging out with me on Here's What I Learned. If today's episode gave you an aha moment, a laugh, or something to think about, make sure you're subscribed to my email list. That's where I share even more tips, stories, and behind-the-scenes insights to help you simplify and thrive. And remember, you get to do business and life your way. Until next time, keep experimenting, keep simplifying, and keep learning.